Your job in the media, and I cannot stress this enough, isn't to uncritically report what Israel is saying. Your job in the media, when one side is saying that it's raining and the other side is saying it's sunny out, is not to just say one side is saying it's raining. It's to open the window and look outside. Do you think announcing publicly that Hamas gave a response before actually parsing the response is a mistake? I feel like opening the floor to speculation is a bad idea. No, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea because Hamas has said that they are open to negotiations as long as there's a permanent end to hostilities since October 8th. So I think that it's a good thing because they probably see that like the American media keeps claiming that Israel, this is Israel's ceasefire agreement, and Hamas is like up the, like right now, Israel is trying to desperately make it stick that Hamas are the ones who are like ruining the pathway to peace.
In the Jordanian capital, Amman. And Imran, of course, these developments are just coming through to us in the past 45 minutes or so. Talk us through what we know so far about Hamas's response.
Well, what Hamas have told Al Jazeera is there are amendments they want to the ceasefire proposal. Firstly, what they're saying is they want a complete withdrawal from the entire Gaza Strip, and that includes the Rafah crossing and the Philadelphia corridor. The Philadelphia corridor is basically the border between Egypt and the Gaza Strip. Now, that was delivered by Ismail Haniyeh, the political bureau chief of Hamas, all the way to the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Qatar and the Egyptian mediators. Hamas have now responded to this. They want to talk, but they have these amendments. It's all about whether Israel now is willing to accept those amendments. The fact that Hamas have responded actually means that there is a movement on these ceasefire talks. These ceasefire talks had actually stalled for a very long time. Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, has been in the region, and he has always said during his visit over the last couple of days that this is about Hamas. Hamas need to respond. Hamas, the onus is on Hamas to be able to say yes to the deal. Well, Hamas have now responded. So that kind of goes away now. So Hamas also, about 4 or 5 hours ago, said that they were willing to send negotiators. So Hamas are now playing ball effectively. But Israel has a problem now, and here's the effective problem. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been absolutely clear about the end game of his war on Gaza. He wants to destroy Hamas, both politically and militarily. He hasn't changed that effective plan. But now Hamas have responded. They want to talk. This is going to be very difficult for Israel to actually go, oh, maybe we can't talk about this, because this was an American resolution in the Security Council. So there you go.
Ceasefire talks in turmoil as Hamas responds to proposal. Talks to bring about a ceasefire and hostage deal could stop the war in Gaza were thrown into doubt Tuesday evening when Israel characterized the Hamas response to the latest proposal as a rejection. Bro, your job in the media, and I cannot stress this enough, isn't to uncritically report what Israel is saying. Your job in the media, when one side is saying that it's raining and the other side is saying it's sunny out, is not to just say one side is saying it's raining. It's to open the window and look outside. What the f? Is it raining outside or is it sunny, motherfucker? You can't turn around and be like, well, the side we trust unconditionally is saying that it's raining outside. So we will not open the window and we will not peek outside. We will not do that. And if you do actually say, hey, look outside, it's actually sunny, you're a liar. You're a genocidal monster. Do not demand I look outside. Hamas has submitted his response to the Qatari mediators, proposing amendments to the Israeli proposal, including a timeline. That's not an amendment. Including a timeline for a permanent ceasefire and complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. That is a part of the proposal. You can't be like, hey, guys, this proposal means a ceasefire and a permanent end to hostilities. And then Hamas is like, yeah, we like that. Here's a ceasefire and permanent end to hostilities. Can we get a timeline on this, please? I go, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. We never said there was a timeline and a permanent end to hostilities. Excuse me. Our permanent end to hostilities proposal does not actually mean a permanent end to hostilities. Where'd you get that idea from? Like, even the framing of this is so funny. It's like ceasefire talks in turmoil as Hamas responds to proposal. How is it in turmoil if Hamas is like, yeah, we like it. Here's can you give us a timeline, please, of how we're going to implement this? No! But in a potential sign of how Israel views the proposed amendments, one Israeli official speaking to CNN analyst Barak Ravid described Hamas's response to the original deal as a rejection. Israel received Hamas's response. Hamas rejected the proposal for a hostage deal, which was laid out by President Biden in his speech. They're trying to take advantage of the fact that the American media doesn't really like listening to or reporting on what Hamas officials are saying, which is why I'm saying it's good that Qatari and Egyptian envoys are actually communicating Hamas's desires to speak, because those are state actors that are within the sphere of American influence. So when state actors within American sphere of influence are saying, no, Hamas is actually responding to the proposals, that's a good thing. They have to report on that. If they don't say that, then all you have is basically Twitter accounts posting Hamas telegrams. And Twitter accounts posting Hamas telegrams would be newsworthy in a normal situation, because that is one aspect of their, that is one way that they can communicate their desires. But we know that the American media will never cover that shit. So that's why I say Egypt and Qatar coming out and saying, no, they are responding is a good thing overall. Because they're state actors. This follows a United Nations Security Council vote on Monday approving a U.S.-backed resolution calling for a ceasefire and laying out a plan to end the war. The comprehensive three-stage peace deal, which sets out conditions intended to lead to the eventual release of all remaining hostages in return for a permanent ceasefire and withdrawal of Israeli forces, was first laid out by President Joe Biden May 31st. So is it President Biden's proposal? Is it the Israeli proposal? Is it the Hamas proposal? Why not all of it?
Our world lead. Hamas has responded to the latest proposal for a hostage and ceasefire deal, and Hamas has rejected it. CNN political and foreign policy analyst Barak Ravid is breaking this. Did Hamas, Barak, give any explanation for its rejection?
I love that a part of my job is analyzing the news as it's happening in real time. And there's perhaps no better textbook, definitional, manufactured consent operation than one unfolding in front of your eyes. Okay? You get to see it in real time. You don't even need to read textbooks any longer. You could just see it happening in real time. Okay? Israeli official Benjamin Netanyahu says Hamas refused the proposal, when the Hamas side of the proposal is, as you can see in the byline, or when you parse through the weird headline, is simply saying that they want a timeline for a permanent ceasefire and complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, which is the proposal. Simply asking for a timeline means Hamas actually rejected the proposal, actually. It's also funny because Israel cannot stop itself from immediately contradicting this sentiment. So it doesn't even matter, because in the next 24 hours, you will hear from many different Knesset members of Likud, and also Knesset members from Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition come out and be like, no, we're not doing a ceasefire. That's anti-Semitic. So no matter how hard these motherfuckers try to manufacture consent, they can't end up doing it successfully because Israel keeps chirping. Why would Hamas respond to a proposal with the same proposal? Or did I read that wrong? They're not responding to a proposal. They're saying, we like the proposal. We think this proposal is good. They've literally not said anything other than that. They keep saying, we like this proposal. We think it's good. Can you please give us assurances and a timeline on how we're going to do this proposal? That is perfectly valid and within the boundaries of a proposal. Imagine that you're purchasing a car. It's a little bit like a negotiation, okay? And the guy selling you the car says, okay, you give me the money and I give you the car, okay? The dealership says, you give us the money, we give you the car. And then and then you turn around and you go, okay, I'm going to give you the money. I'm getting the money together. Can I please get a timeline on when the car will be delivered? And the dealership goes, we never said we were going to give you the car. Give us the money. Give us the money now. There is no car. And then other people that are working in the dealership go, you don't get a car. You give us the money right now. We're going to take the car from you too. We're going to take your current car, actually. As a matter of fact, the car you drove in here on. We're taking that too. There's no car. What do you mean car? Give me the money now, bitch. Give me the money now. Right now. Would you feel like that is valid? No, you wouldn't. But that's exactly what's going on with this Israeli proposal for a ceasefire and a permanent end to hostilities. And you are anti-Semitic for even demanding a car from the dealership. How dare you? How dare you?
Hi, Jake. So first, Hamas did not say that it rejected the deal. Hamas said that it gave a response to the Qatari and Egyptian mediators, that it gave several comments and remarks on parts of the Israeli proposal.
Getting corrected by Barack Ravid is ridiculous, by the way.
Israel, the Israeli government, Israeli officials are the ones saying that after they received Hamas's response and analyzed it, they treat it as a rejection. I think we still need to hear from the mediators and most importantly, from the White House that
Think of the contrast between the Al Jazeera reporting and the Israeli media. The Ynet headline is Israel received Hamas's answer. They rejected the Biden outline. The whole proposal was changed. Barack Ravid does this shit voluntarily. I guess the CNN analysis is pretty skilled at Israeli propaganda. Like New York Times published a piece interviewing Sdei Taiman detainees, and only way down in the article they mentioned how the detainees were anally raped with hot iron rods. Yeah. New York Times buried the lead of Sdei Taiman detainees being raped anally by hot iron rods at the end of their coverage. Yeah, I didn't hear about that, chat. Did it? I didn't even cover the New York Times article because like it's the shit that we've talked about already. So I thought it wasn't necessary to like recover the same thing. The craziest part about Sdei Taiman is that Israeli activists have been aware of this torture concentration camp for months. Israeli outlets have covered it for months. Israeli human rights organizations have been working actively to dismantle Sdei Taiman for months. This is not like a new story. I have covered it for the past 5 months. So I thought like when the New York Times is covering it, it's like, all right, you know, this is like the 11th time that we're covering it. Who gives a shit? Turns out there are still people who are unaware. Inside the base where Israel has detained thousands of Gazans. All right, let's take a look. Where is it? Where is the rod? Mr. Barker considered a form of torture, saying it was so painful that blood began to trickle from inside of his ear. Roughly 4 days after his arrival, Mr. Barker was called in for interrogation. Like others who spoke to the Times, he remembers being brought to a separate enclosure. Where is it? It's at the end of the article, but hold on. Oh, here it is. Mr. Al-Hamlawi, the senior nurse, said a female officer had ordered 2 soldiers to lift him up and press his rectum against a metal stick that was fixed on the ground. Mr. Al-Hamlawi said the stick penetrated his rectum for roughly 5 seconds, causing it to bleed and leaving him with unbearable pain. This is where the article mentions the anal. Oh, you can't see it here. Look how far down it is. This is called burying the lead. A leaked draft of the owner report detailed an interview that gave a similar account. It cited a 41-year-old detainee who said that interrogators made me sit on something like a hot metal stick and it felt like fire. And also said that another detainee died after they put an electric stick up his. Mr. Al-Hamlawi recalled being forced to sit in a chair wired with electricity. He said he was shocked so often that after initially urinating uncontrollably, he then stopped urinating for several days. Mr. Al-Hamlawi said he too had been forced to wear nothing but a diaper to stop him from soiling the floor. Bro, it's a Nazi concentration camp. That's what it is. Okay. Also, Israel has been torturing Palestinian detainees. This is not new information, for the record. They've been doing this. I guess like the reason why I come across as almost callous when I'm in my indifference to this coverage is because I have covered this quite a bit. I've talked about this for not only years, because other human rights organizations have brought it up, including, but not limited to, Palestinian detainee human rights groups that have been declared terrorist organizations by Israel for their coverage on the matter. Cool to see CNN and MSNBC get back to the fundamentals of manufacturing consent. Yeah.
Or is this the on-ramp to a permanent
cessation? Wait, this is literally, what's his face? Daniel Levy. This is probably, I'm actually kind of shocked that he's on MSNBC with Joanne Reed. Joanne Reed has been pretty good on Israel, as a matter of fact. So this is probably very good coverage, for the record. This is not bad at all. He's a Democracy Now! Regular. He is a former hostage negotiator. He's a former Israeli negotiator that's been a part of the peace process in general. He's a Democracy Now! Guy. Co-founder of J Street. Well, yeah, that's why I don't have a lot of smoke for J Street in general, because within the confines of like acceptable politics, J Street does a lot of good overall. October 7th, post October 7th, they also had like that same kind of brain disease a little bit, and were like chirping. And then a lot of their old J Street donors and old J Street founders immediately put them back in line. J Street is baby shit compared to AIPAC? No, J Street is like very specifically designed as a liberal PAC, a liberal special interest group for Israel. Don't know if you covered this, but it's so disgusting.
To really talk honestly about the definition of civilian casualties. 4 hostages rescued and 270 Palestinian civilians killed. We need to start to look at that word civilians when the hostages would be.
Oh, branding and marketing expert, dude. Yeah, he's branding the civilians as terrorists. Such great branding. Thank you, sir.
Being held by a Palestinian journalist, a civilian, and a Palestinian doctor, a civilian. These are not civilians. These are Hamas ambassadors. And yes, there are innocent civilians, but I think back to also the hundreds and thousands of rabid Gazans as they drag their corpse through Gaza, cheering, hysterical with glee and joy. And it's just, once again, the media coverage is, and these were 4 hostages that were taken on a day that 1,200 Israelis were slaughtered, maimed, decapitated, killed in the most gruesome way. And I don't know if Americans had 4 hostages that were taken and we had a rescue mission. And yes, there were 270 casualties, and many of those Palestinian casualties are deep sympathizers of Hamas. Would the coverage be the same way? Would anybody be criticizing the rescue mission, or would it be truly
65 children? That's the number. 65 children. But hey, have we figured out their sympathies? Are they aligning with Hamas? Are they not sufficiently anti-Hamas? Who's to know? Yeah, there are reports of by the way, you can tell when the Hasbara operation is just churning, because you start noticing the exact same takes on the National Post, or you start seeing the Israeli government's own Twitter account say, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And let's talk about the Palestinian civilians and the role that they played on October 7th. How the fuck can this be said by such a big outlet without any repercussions? Because we are a genocidal nation, okay? We are a settler colonial nation that was built on the foundations of genocide. And Israel is our settler colonial project in the Middle East. There is no amount of cruelty that the United States of America and its supposedly free media will not go along with, as long as it corresponds to our State Department interests, okay? Why Muslims terrorists? What? This think shit? What? Rain and soil. Love Hitler. Why Muslims terrorists think this think shit? Bro, you're so deflated. What do you want me to do, man? What do you want me to do? I see it with my own 2 eyes. Like, I don't know what to do. This is not my first foray into this conversation. This is every day, literally every day for the past 8, almost 9 months. Every day with this shit, man. Every day. It's just lies, genocide denial, and then defense of why actually a genocide must occur. My sister reposted one of the freed hostages saying there are no innocents in Gaza. So I asked, if you want to eliminate Hamas, are there no innocents? You acknowledge you want to kill all 2 million Gazans. You can't believe all 3 have to eliminate Hamas. Plus, there are no innocents. Don't want to kill 2 million Gazans. Yeah. In any other case, this would get covered by international outlets and put on website front pages, but this shit is intentionally done by editorial boards to prevent that. We just saw Bassem Tamimi, leader of the popular nonviolent struggle in Palestinian village of Nabi Salih, truly an incredible person, leave his 13th time in administrative detention after 6 months. He looked broken. I saw the photos. Likely tortured. This is where they're sending most of the Sedate Taimon detainees now, by the way. Some people yelled at you for saying that a baby can be a settler, but still a civilian and should not be killed. But the Zionists are now unironically saying that Palestinian babies are not civilians. Where's the outrage over this? They are saying things way worse than what they got mad at you for. Yes, but I don't know if you understand. Yeah, this is the difference. Starved and tortured. These Before and after photos reveal the transformation of Palestinian Bassem Tamimi from the village of Nabi Saleh following his release from 8 months in Israeli occupation prisons. It's wild because these prisons are not under constant bombardment or not under constant threat. And you look at the difference between Palestinian, you look at the difference of the Israeli hostages in the hands of the Palestinian forces and the conditions that they're in, all things considered, when they're constantly under an endless bombing campaign, when there's like limitations to how much food and water they can get, you recognize that one side has all the power and chooses to treat their detainees, their hostages, and the other side has none of the power and yet still does their very best to at least protect their leverage. This is a Ryan Grimm retweet. In its initial article regarding the newly rescued hostages, the Times of Israel reported that their captives cared about their well-being and even baked a cake for his birthday. Today, they falsely claimed that they were beaten almost daily. Let's review how we know it's false. The initial article describes the positive statements by the hostages as possible Stockholm Syndrome, a phenomenon where captives sometimes have positive feelings towards their captors. Note, we have yet to see Palestinians released by the IDF exhibiting this behavior. Jan said this is a cynical gesture. His captors made him a cake for his birthday. The new article contradicts the initial claim by the captives were beaten almost every day, but that article appears to be misquoting the source. It relies on which it cited daily abuse and included mental or other types such as harsh conditions in that classification. Dr. Itai Pesach of the Sheba Medical Center outside of Tel Aviv told CNN that the hostages suffered almost daily abuse and that their time in captivity was a harsh experience. Every hour, both physical, mental, and other types. And that is something that is beyond comprehension, Pesach said. Dr. Pesach specifically refers to the conditions of the hostages as having an outward appearance of being in good shape, suggesting no physical bruises or wounds, and refers to the biggest issue now being a low-protein diet while in captivity. Dr. Pesach specifically refers to the condition of the hostages as having outward appearance of being in good shape. Furthermore, when discussing their overall state, the doctor never uses the word beating, makes zero mention of beatings, instead citing psychological stress, malnutrition, and medical neglect, space limitations, and even lack of sunlight as the stressors for health. The source of the story is actually an article originally released by CNN who ran with a headline that mentioned beaten while in captivity, not including the almost daily language, but with no substantiation via quotes from the doctors as such claim. Doctors treating rescued Israeli hostages says they were beaten in captivity. No doubt the hostages went through an extremely difficult set of conditions while held for the last 8 months. An accurate understanding of such is important. We call on Times of Israel to correct the misleading headlines and provide substantiation for such claims. The left photo from Bassem is like 6 years ago. I can't. It's a paywalled. Rescued hostages said suffering from malnutrition, leaning on each other for support. Yeah. It is kind of wild that they put this up, by the way, because like they're not suffering from malnutrition because like Hamas is refusing to give them food. They're suffering from malnutrition because Israel is refusing to let food into the Gaza Strip. So that is yet another way that like Israel is killing their own hostages, as we have talked about quite a bit. Okay. Oh.
White House spokesman John Kirby said that the White House is still analyzing and studying the Hamas response. So Hamas is saying it just gave a few comments. Israel is saying Hamas rejected the deal. The White House still hasn't said.
Yeah, the White House will also repeat the Israeli line as they have done so since day one, by the way. Noah Argamani was released from the hospital today and talked with the head of Shin Bet, Ronan Bar. The whole interview is interesting, but pay attention to what she said in the undertitle here. Noah Argamani met with the mother of her abducted partner in Gaza. She told her family, I didn't think it would take so long. Her partner, Avinatan Or, is still being held captive by Hamas. Noah told the head of the Shin Bet, I heard on the radio that Israel opposes the end of the war. It broke me. She told her family, they gave me a little food. They forced me to clean their house. I heard on the radio that Israel opposes the end of the war. It broke me. I'm just saying. She's literally, isn't she straight up an IDF member too? So that makes no sense whatsoever. Wait, what? No. What makes no sense is you thinking that this is going to be a valid way to debate me at the top of the hour online. Okay? No, it's not. It's not going to be a good one. Okay? It's not. I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. Yeah, exactly. You got caught. Put your hands up. Swing and a miss. This Turkish chatter I now recognize immediately as a debater, a serial offender. Here's the 3-minute ad break now, by the way.
Anything of substance, I think we should wait and hear more what the White House says, what the Qataris say, and what the Egyptians say.
So U.S. officials say that they believe Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar feels as though he has the upper hand in the negotiations. This after a Wall Street Journal report that says that messages that they've seen from Sinwar show that he believes Hamas is benefiting from the civilian death toll of Palestine.
This narrative is so stupid, dude. If that's the case, why the f have they put forward 39 different ceasefire proposals? 39. If that's the case, then why is Israel doing one of two things? Okay, either A, stopping the bombing campaign that makes them look bad, okay, or B, following through on one of the many ceasefire proposals that have been put forward. I don't understand this argument. Follow the argument to its logical conclusion, and you will realize that this is purely genocidal rhetoric. It's so stupid. It's literally like, oh, well, Hamas is actually benefiting greatly from Israel's cruelty. Okay, then don't be cruel. And all of a sudden, Hamas will not be able to benefit? Like, what the f? But Israel has to be cruel.
Palestinians in Gaza, is that similar to what you're hearing from officials in Israel and the United States and elsewhere?
So the Israelis said for a long time that, Sinwar, that there's a big gap between Sinwar and Hamas leadership, Hamas's political leadership in Qatar, that Sinwar was much more hard line. And what I heard from U.S. officials in the last few weeks is that because Sinwar thinks that as the war goes on, Israel will be more under pressure and the U.S. will put more pressure on Israel. This is why they try to mobilize the international community to support President Biden's speech, including the Security Council resolution that passed yesterday, that the Biden administration thought that if Sinwar cares so much about the international pressure on Israel, maybe when he sees the Security Council resolution, he'll have second thoughts on where the international pressure is directed. Maybe he'll understand that he's also under pressure and not only the Israelis.
All right, Barak Ravid, thanks so much for that reporting. Last night in New York City, outside
Hamas.
What we're seeing now is Hamas responding, Israel now having to go back and say, well, how much of that response can we deal with? So it's going to be a very difficult negotiation for the Americans, for the Qataris, and for the Egyptian mediators. But the fact that it's actually happened is incredibly important.
And Imran, let's talk about this. Well, it amounts to essentially a pushback from Hamas, the demand for a complete withdrawal, as he mentioned, of Israeli forces from Gaza. How does that sit politically, do you think, with Netanyahu, a demand like that, given the pressure that he's under from the far right?
Well, the far-right part of his government have always been very clear. Go in, flatten Gaza, and destroy Hamas.
Wait, what is this? Accepting Ludwig's... Oh, this is... I thought for a second that we had... I thought Austin Ox had posted the new video. I got excited. Nope.
That's something the Prime Minister has said publicly. We need to destroy Hamas politically and militarily. So the fact that Hamas are now saying, well, you need to withdraw from the entire Gaza Strip, including Rafah and the Philadelphia corridor, is not going to sit well. There's a political consideration here. 64 seats of the Israeli Knesset, that's all it takes for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to remain in power. As long as he has those 64 seats in the Knesset, he can actually stay in power and resist American pressure, international pressure, because the coalition internally within the government is still holding. The minute he starts to kind of weaken that coalition by saying, okay, so maybe we withdraw our troops, if that's what it takes to get a ceasefire, maybe that's what it takes to get our captives out, that's going to have an impact on the political future of this. We're in this weird position, Aniv, where domestic politics, domestic desire to stay in power in Israel is actually influencing foreign policy. That's what's going on right now. Netanyahu has the coalition, and the coalition is backing him, but he's under so much international pressure. The Americans have just pushed forward a resolution in the UN Security Council that's legally binding. The Irish, the Spanish, and other countries have recognized Palestine as a state. There's the ICG ruling, there's the ICC ruling. There's all of this international pressure upon him, but he can resist it because he has the domestic votes that he needs to stay in power. That's really the problem that the international community faces, because he's still in power, and this is something that he can resist. But the Americans are very clear. They've been pushing this ceasefire plan for a long time now, and Hamas have responded, and the American response, the American position was always, well, Hamas need to respond. Well, now they've responded.
All right.
Yeah. If they didn't want the war to end, they would not be putting forward ceasefire negotiations. Obviously, their first goal is to end the carnage. But like I said, there's another key role that Israel is playing here. What do you mean Israel says that? They literally found the hostages surrounded by civilians. Brother, don't you think that if the hostages are being held in civilian facilities, which, by the way, they are in certain, when certain positions are bombed, they move the hostages, okay, from house to house regularly with regular frequency, okay? There's not much options remaining when everything is reduced to rubble. That's number one. Where are they supposed to put the hostages, man? What are we doing here? Are we gonna act like there's rules of war that Israel is following? Like, the fuck are you talking about? Of course, not every one of the hostages are constantly in a tunnel system. So that's a defense of surrounding them by civilians? No, you idiot. If you know that they're surrounded by civilians, you don't blow up the civilians. You're not understanding what I'm saying. They have killed their own hostages. Dumb fuck. My point is, Israel says that Hamas is deliberately putting them in civilian areas. There's no other areas in Gaza, for the record. And secondly, it doesn't even matter because it doesn't stop Israel from blowing up all matter of civilian infrastructure anyway. What is a hostage situation? Like, what is a hostage situation supposed to look like? Why is there a hostage negotiator? Like, why is that a position in the police force? I don't really understand. Why are people trained on hostage negotiations? What we are supposed to do in that situation, if there's any kind of hostage negotiation, is to blow up the entire block. Hello? And then further, take it one step further and go to the families of the hostages and kill them too. Fuck it. YOLO, you know? The fuck do you mean? Is this a police action? Pretty sure it's a war. No, it's not a war, dumbass. It's a genocide, okay? It's an ethnic cleansing campaign. That's what it is. It's not a war. Is this a police action? What is the difference between a police action and a war, dumb f***? It's one state actor operating like they are the enforcers. The only reason why this resembles a police action or should resemble a police action is because it is being conducted as a belligerent occupier upon a group of individuals that you have occupied for 76 years. Yes, if Israel followed the rules of engagement and Israel followed international rights, international humanitarian rights, it would be conducted as a police operation. But it is not being conducted as a police operation and an ethnic cleansing campaign. That's the problem. Genocide, where 1.8% of the population dies in a war they started, while 10x times smaller. Yeah, dude, genocide. You, by that definitional logic, no genocide against, no Serbian genocide, no Armenian genocide. Sorry, the entire population didn't die. It doesn't matter. There's genocidal intent and then there's genocidal action. When will you stop? Will you call something a genocide? Was it the Holocaust when the final solution came to be and like 6 million Jews were killed? Is that when you were like, okay, now I'm comfortable calling it a genocide? Or was it already a genocide in the beginning? What reason do we have to even make definitions for genocide if it's not in order to stop the genocide from occurring? Serbian 25%, Armenian was 70%, Serbian 25%. How many people died? The f do you mean? The Yazidis, ISIS did a genocide on the Yazidis. That was 5,000 people. Okay, exactly. 8,000 in Srebrenica, which is literally 8,000. What the f By your own definition, Israel has gone above and beyond 8,000. Israel's killed almost twice the number of children. Israel's doing a baby genocide. ISIS killed 5,000 Yazidis. That was considered a genocide. The f*** do you mean? Yeah, dude. Until every single Jewish person dies, the Holocaust is not technically a genocide. It's not the argument you want to make because it's idiotic. There is no reason to ever even conduct genocide studies or Holocaust studies at all if dumbasses like you are going to be like, well, it's technically not a genocide until after the fact. Lol, nope, they were trying to kill them all. Well, I guess they failed. Only 25%. Yeah, they were defeated. Yeah, inshallah, one day Israel will be defeated as well. And then your dumbass will probably turn around and be like, yeah, I guess it was a genocide. Oops. Unlikely given nukes. Oh, okay. So if it's a nuclear armed state doing genocide, then it's fine. Got it. Thank you. Okay. The argument is so awesome. Israel as our ally cannot be stopped because they'll nuke us. Like, what the fuck are you saying? No, just the defeat. Yeah, okay. Israel will nuke the planet. Okay, the Samson option, right? Good argument, man. Thank you. Yeah. Percentage of the population matters. Genocidal intent no longer is important in the legal definition of genocide. Apartheid South Africa had nukes too, yeah, but their apartheid was dismantled. So what's up with that? To be fair, Israel doesn't recognize Srebrenica as a genocide. Yeah, I know why they don't recognize the Armenian genocide as a genocide either, because obviously, lol, they weren't defeated. They voted to end it. Yeah, I wonder how they voted to end it though. Perhaps a shit ton of international pressure had something to do with it. Perhaps, I don't know, a boycott, divestments, and sanctions package coming for South Africa, as long as they maintained their apartheid regime, played a pivotal role in getting the South African population to vote in the direction of abolishing the apartheid. Maybe that was a significant reason. Okay? I like that you very quickly gave up on the defense of genocide position and immediately went to, well, Israel will nuke the world if they try to stop them from conducting their genocide, which isn't a genocide at all. Very cool thing you did there. I noticed. No, I'm still right on the genocide. No, you're not. And history will not look fondly upon you. The idea that like, oh, they haven't hit the high score yet, so technically it's not a genocide is an idiotic one. It would render the definition of genocide completely useless. Genocide is still an attempt to destroy a race. Genocide can also factor into ethnic displacement, which Israel has done many of already. Okay? Remember that, you dumb. I love the argument, dude. 37,000 people slaughtered. Pretty much 50% of the entire Gaza Strip decimated, right? Well, technically, they're not trying to displace the ethnicity. Nope, the UN states it isn't. That's bullshit. You are wrong. To constitute genocide, there must be a proven intent on the part of the perpetrators to physically destroy a national, ethnic, or racial or religious group. Cultural destruction does not suffice, nor does an intention to simply disperse a group. The ICJ has declared that Israel's genocidal intent is at least sufficient enough to warrant an investigation. Okay? So I guess the Armenian genocide would not be a genocide, by the way, under your understanding of the UN definitions. In the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. In part, by the way. In part. In whole or in part. A, killing members of the group. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, such as not rendering sufficient aid to the civilian population, which Israel is doing all of this. It's kind of funny because Israel looks at the Genocide Convention, okay, according to the United Nations, and goes, that's my checklist of what I should be doing to the Palestinians. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. UN's own rights expert finds reasonable grounds genocide is being committed in Gaza. This is Francesca Albanese, by the way, speaking at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, where she presented her latest report entitled Anatomy of a Genocide during an interactive dialogue with member states. Following nearly 6 months, now it's been 3 months since then, by the way, of unrelenting Israeli assault on occupied Gaza, it is my solemn duty to report on the worst that humanity is capable of and to present my findings. There are reasonable grounds to believe that the threshold indicating the commission of a crime of genocide has been met. Now, this is the part where you say, it doesn't matter. Actually, the UN is Hamas. Lol, no, it didn't. As the Supreme Court Justice said in an interview. Wait, what? You cannot physically misunderstand. You cannot physically misunderstand the ICJ this fucking hard. What Supreme Court Justice are you referencing? Are you talking about an ICJ judge that you are most likely fucking misunderstanding? The ICJ Supreme Court Justice says it wasn't a ruling on plausibility. Oh, notice how we have moved, by the way, from the UN definition of a genocide. In present, the Convention of Genocide means any of the following acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. Notice how we fucking conveniently ignored that part? To physically destroy a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. It's weird that you, in part, why are you so confused by destroy? It's just so odd because you seemingly refrain from talking about the in part. And when I talked about the Nakba, okay, this still absolutely fucking suffices for that. They've actually done this specifically to Yemeni children as well in Israel, but that's besides the point. We're not even going to get to that. Why are you so confused by destroy? And in what part in part means if you like? You can read what in part means if you like. Lol, read the bottom of the page. The intent is the most difficult element to determine. To constitute genocide, there must be a proven intent in the part of the perpetrators to physically destroy a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. Cultural destruction does not suffice, nor does an intention to simply disperse a group. It is special intent, or dolus specialis, that makes the crime of genocide so unique. According to those who successfully prosecuted the Serbian genocide, there is dolus specialis, special intent, in the Israeli case, by the way. Importantly, the victims of genocide are deliberately targeted, not randomly, because of their real or perceived membership of one of the four groups protected under the convention, which excludes political groups, for example. This means that the targeted destruction must be the group as such and not its members as individuals. Genocide can also be committed against only part of the group as long as that part is identifiable, including within a geographically limited area or substantial. I'm confused as to where you're coming from. What is the, do you think this suits your argument? Chatter's an idiot. It was a ruling on plausibility that it was plausible the Palestinians' right to be protected from genocide was being infringed, calling for the investigation into whether or not Israel is violating it. Yeah. Like, I don't get it.